you today, Tony?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Hosting is fine. Just don't investigate me. You've been in the news lately.
Yeah,
People are talking about you.
I have a rep.
Yeah.
Simmons says I have a rep, apparently.
Yeah, I
you
don't.
know Bill. Remember Bill?
Just don't investigate me. You know what I've done? I mean, I've covered up, my ring thing at the front of the house. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. Wilbon has a day off. I am joined by our great friend, the host of the podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out, Mr. Pablo Torre. That's nice. And we begin today with the long-awaited and expected report that Aaron Rodgers plans to sign with the Steelers. The 41-year-old Rodgers has timed his decision to come after this week's voluntary OTAs, but prior to next week's mandatory minicamp. Pablo, what is your reaction to this news?
My reaction is that 2024 Pablo would have loved to get an alert on his cell phone saying Aaron Rodgers signs with an NFL team. Just doesn't hit the same, Tony. And I understand that the Steelers, they're trying to do a thing that in sports nerd conferences they refer to as high variance. Aaron Rodgers has a very high ceiling. He could be the greatest quarterback in the league. The floor, though, gets everybody fired. And so it's just funny. It's funny that the Steelers are in a place where all the breadcrumbs lead to Aaron Rodgers. We knew it was coming, and yet the risk is as stated.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that, although I'm going to say that the best place for Aaron Rodgers is a team coached by Mike Tomlin, who has watched him for an awful lot of years, and I think they will come to a behavioral détente very soon. I'm one of those guys who thinks that Aaron Rodgers can still throw it. I watched him with the Jets. I mean, I think this is the best spot for him.
Okay.
And there are two things that I would say. First of all, right now, three of the starting quarterbacks in that division are Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, and Lamar Jackson. There's no division like that. There's no division like that in the league. The second thing is, I want to know who's going to be the first person who goes to Aaron Rodgers' locker and hands him bark to chew on. That's when you know Aaron Rodgers is okay with that squad, when that happens.
Tony, I just like how we have to speak in the language of détentes as if Aaron Rodgers is, on the road to Yalta. Like, that's part of his story now. Is that it's always diplomacy. Yeah. Who's going to be in charge, who's not? And look, when you say that he might be, he certainly is a guy who can still throw it. The question to me also is like, well, who's he throwing to? The Steelers have that all figured out yet? I mean, they have DK Metcalf. That's good. Pat Freiermuth, okay. What happens now? What happens now? Like, you're right. The AFC North is really, really tough when it comes to the quarterbacks.
It's loaded. It's loaded.
I just haven't seen Aaron Rodgers be anywhere close to the guy that can hang with the caliber of names that you mentioned.
And I understand that. And he's brought that upon himself in the last couple of years. And the behavior has made him the object of derision. I'm just telling you that if you stand there and you don't know it's Aaron Rodgers and you see him throw it, you go, wow, he can still throw it. That's what I feel. Yeah. We move now to the NBA Finals, which start tonight in Oklahoma City, between the 68-win Thunder and the 50-win Indiana Pacers. Oklahoma City is a substantial favorite, having led the league in regular season victories, including both games they played against Indiana. Pablo, are you giving the Pacers a big chance, a little chance, or no chance at all?
I'm giving them a little chance. And I say that because the way they play on offense has been impressive. Watching that whole Knicks series, they are organized chaos. And they're really stylistically fun to watch. Now, the problem with all of this is that the Thunder are as good defensively as any team I think we've ever seen by the metrics.
That's right.
So they are equipped uniquely to stop the Pacers. But top to bottom, they're deep, they run, they are young, and I enjoy watching them. I expect this to be a longer series. I don't think this is going to be a sweep. I think this is going to be a 6-game sort of operation.
Okay. So let me first divest myself of my prejudices here. I covered Rick Carlisle when he played in college at Virginia, and I have followed his coaching career with admiration and affection. I find myself rooting for him. But I do believe that in this particular case, he is the decided underdog. I mean, Indiana is a fast break, run up and down the court team. And as you're saying, Oklahoma City has the best defense in the league. They, like in every single category, they've got the best defense in the league. And if they figure out Indiana early on, I don't know where Indiana goes. I mean, if you're asking me, to pick Indiana, I would do it in 7 games. If you allowed me, I'd pick it in 9 games. But on the other hand, I'm looking at Oklahoma City as a team that is really good, and I would pick them in 4 or 5, and without any compunction about that. I mean, I believe this game tonight is worth watching for these reasons. It's a game about Indiana. What does Indiana have up its sleeves tonight? How close can they hang with Oklahoma City? Because, Pablo, Oklahoma City is a juggernaut at home. They're 43-7 at home, counting the playoffs. What do you do with that?
I just like how you say, with no compunction, all your arguments so far have been compunctions. If Aaron Rodgers was not actually Aaron Rodgers, if this 7-game series was a 9-game series, you'd give the Pacers a shot. And we can agree that a little compunction is in the room with us right now. But I want to move to Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final because the Florida Panthers jumped out to a 3-1 lead early in the second period in Edmonton. But the Oilers came back to tie the game in regulation. And then Leon Draisaitl won it in overtime. And so what did last night's results say to you, Tony, about this year's rematch?
It's an enormous boost for Edmonton. I mean, Florida was up 2-1 in the first period. Florida was up 3-1 early in the second period. They beat a Florida team. This is a great statistic that the Florida Panthers have been 18-0 in road playoff games under Paul Maurice when they took a lead out of the second period. You don't catch them and pass them, and that is what happened last night. I don't think this is tragic for Florida. This is Florida's 3rd straight trip to the finals. They know who they are. They can lose a game. It doesn't matter. It's not their first rodeo. But on the other hand, had Edmonton lost this game at home, people would immediately have started to say, oh, here we go again. The fact that they won it at home and that McDavid and Draisaitl were the biggest part of it is very important. There's air underneath their skates now. Draisaitl did not score any goals in the 7-game Stanley Cup Final last year. He opened the scoring with a goal, and he closed the scoring with a goal. All these signs are very good for Edmonton.
Yeah, this was clearly bigger for Edmonton than it was damaging for Florida. And it's just funny when the biggest criticism of the Florida Panthers is they have won so much, been to so many consecutive finals that they might be tired now. I like that as the Achilles heel. I like that 2 series ago, the Maple Leafs were up 2-0 and the Panthers came back. I like that the Panthers are actually right now 8-3 on the road. I like that they have every bit of experience that makes them, very bizarrely for me, yes, the veteran incumbent in this. I mean, it's, Tony, I just think there's so much better than a Game 1 loss should cause us to be worried about.
Let us move to the French Open, Pablo. I know you're a tennis fan. Last night, Novak Djokovic, good job.
To Coco Gauff. I've watched her at the U.S. Open when she was even younger than she is now and was impressed. And now we see this flower in bloom. I want to say Coco Gauff for that reason. I want to tip my cap to her for that reason. But I cannot shake the idea that Novak Djokovic, arguably the greatest player of all time, and I'm sure you have arguments about that, might be entering his last dance mode. And if we're going to get Sinner and Djokovic in the semifinal tomorrow, Tony, we're going to get that. And it's 4-4. It's split, but Sinner's won the last 3. Like, Djokovic in winter, to me, that is the headline here.
Yeah, so if Boisson had won, I would say what happened today was most important because she's ranked 361st in the world and nobody had even heard of her 3 days ago. And then she beat Pegula and she beat a couple of, and she would have beaten Coco Gauff today. Okay, and she's French, but it didn't happen. Now, I can still make the case that what happened today is more important because we have a final. Djokovic is in the semifinals. And if Sinner blows his doors off, then what are we talking about? And Sinner, I believe, has won his last 19 matches in majors, including a final at the U.S. Open and a final at the Australian Open. But as you know, as they say in the plays, attention must be paid. This guy, I don't like Djokovic. And I watched the end of that. I got off my couch and I stood up and I applauded. At 38 years old, everybody was writing his obituary for this tournament.
Correct.
And now everybody is busy deleting that. Pablo, if he wins this thing, he's going to have to go through Zverev, he's going to have to go through Sinner, and likely go through Alcaraz. Alcaraz and Sinner are 15 years younger than him. Zverev is 10 years younger than him. I think it would be one of the great runs in tennis history.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Come on. 38? Come on. Let's take a break. Coming up, where do the Pacers have the advantage over the Thunder? If indeed they do, we will ask Kendrick Perkins.
And we will also ask him what he'd tell this young Thunder team about playing in the NBA Finals.
4 stories in the A's, Pablo. We were flying.
I just
4
realized
stories.
that as a 39-year-old, I might be in winter now. This is all a bit existential.
Pardon me.
Let's dig back into the NBA Finals with a man who's in the arena. From NBA Today and NBA Countdown, our great friend Kendrick Perkins. We're going to start with this. You won a title with the Celtics. You made it back to the NBA Finals a few years later with the Thunder. What would you tell this Thunder team about playing in the NBA Finals, which they have not done?
Well, the first thing I would tell them to do is cherish this moment. But with that being said, Tony, I got to tell them, have no regrets, limit distractions, and keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is playing basketball between these lines, because the finals, your first time here, could be overwhelming, right? You could get caught up in everything, the media. You got family members flying in, tickets. All this is going about the interviews. And you forget that you're here to play basketball, and all of a sudden you get punched in the mouth or you let one slip away from you. If I had a message to the Oklahoma City Thunder, this young team, this young group, I would tell them, make sure you keep the main thing the main thing. Limit the distractions, and most importantly, no regrets whatsoever. You don't want to look down 5, 6, 10 years down the line and say, man, I wish we would have done this in this NBA Finals and not got the job done.
Well, Perk, in terms of the main attractions, we're looking at Halliburton, we're looking at SGA. Who would you rather have of those two guys?
This is easy. This is an easy one for me, and there's no disrespect to Tyrese Halliburton, but I'm going with SGA all day. He's the best perimeter player in basketball, knocking at the door of becoming the best player in basketball. Do you see his numbers right now? Not only did he win the conference MVP and MVP, and had the best record in the league, scoring title, but he's sitting at different tables right now with all-time greats, from AI to Shaq to Jordan, Bron. And when you start entering those conversations, that means you're doing something special on the floor. And the great thing about SGA is he has no flaws, right, offensively. He don't live by the three and die by the three. He's mastered the mid-range game, which reminds me a lot of MJ and Kobe, because it's so efficient when it comes down to the comparison of Jordan in the mid-range game. And now he's making others around him better. It's one thing for you to go out there and get 30 or 40, but it's another thing when guys like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren is still able to get off as well.
But if you turn the camera on the Pacers for a second here, Perk, directly on them, are there any areas where you think the Indiana Pacers have an advantage over the Thunder?
I think I would say no to that, but I will say this. To me, Miles Turner is the X factor and most important player for the Pacers if they're trying to win this series. I think he has to be dominant on both ends. We need to see the Miles Turner that we saw in the first series and the second series of this postseason. And that's a player that creates mismatches on the low block because of his ability to set good screens and roll to the basket. Also a guy that can stretch the floor. Defensively, they're going to need him more than ever when it comes down to him being the best shot blocker in the postseason. That needs to show up if they want to have a chance of winning and beating this Oklahoma City team and bringing home a championship.
All right, we will get you out of here on this. You have publicly said that you believe Oklahoma City will win and win in 6. Would that prediction change, and would it change drastically, if Indiana were to win Game 1 on the road?
Well, Tony, if was a fifth, we all be drunk. All right, let me say that to you, okay? If was a fifth, we all be drunk. They're not winning. They're not winning in this arena. This is a dangerous place to play in. And shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They made this a dangerous territory. Here's the thing, right? I do believe that if the Pacers do stand a chance at winning this series, the slight chance that I give them, they would have, this is a must win, game one. Because by the time this Thunder team defensively figure you out, in game two is going to be too late. So you might want to try to catch them slipping after a long break, and hopefully they get caught up in being in the NBA Finals, and you could come in here and steal one. But if you don't get game one, I said in 6, it might be in 5.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you, Perk, as always. You look good, by the way.
I know,
good
he does.
jacket. You look good.
I appreciate it, Tony.
Looks good.
Appreciate it, Tony.
Yeah.
Pablo, appreciate you.
NBA Countdown begins tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC, directly followed by Game 1 at 8:30. Let's take one last break, but still to come a setback for Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson.
And Rick Pitino, Tony, he weighs in on his interest in the Knicks job, which is,
I can't wait. I can't wait. Out of USC 2018. By 2021, Darnold 2.5. Darnold was riding 14-2 as a starter, but had a bad final regular season game against Detroit and then a bad playoff game against the Rams, casting doubt about it. Darnold signed a 3-year, $100 million deal with Seattle. And just the other day, Seattle coach Mike McDonald said, quote, "Sam is our starting quarterback. We love him."
Just did a whole thing on Sam Darnold and didn't even quote the whole "I'm seeing ghosts" thing. Just a remarkable turnaround. I'm not even being sarcastic about this. The fact that guy was so good in Minnesota's second, third act, it's just a remarkable thing for a guy who had written off Mike saying that we were seeing him incorrectly the whole time.
Pat Venditti. On this day 10 years ago, the Oakland A's were with a career record of 2-2 and a 4.73 ERA. I find it amazing you can be ambidextrous as a pitcher.
Yes, look, I worship at the altar of Ohtani, but this specific thing, there should be a rule that you can't make a rule named after a guy when that's the only guy who does this. It's like, what are you guarding against? Who else does this?
Stop it. Happy trails, Texas Tech. The Red Raiders fell in memorable fashion in last night's Game 1 of the Women's College World Series Finals. Tech's reigning College Player of the Year, Nyjah Kennedy, was pitching a shutout in the bottom of the 6th when the call came to intentionally walk Texas All-American Reese Atwood. Made sense as Atwood is hitting .398, and there were 2 out and 2 on with first base open. But Kennedy hadn't walked anyone intentionally all season, and it showed. She left what would have been ball 4 out over the plate, and Atwood smacked it to left, giving Texas a 2-1 lead, which is how it ended.
It's a remarkable video what we just saw, Tony. Kennedy, by the way, she got $1 million to leave Stanford, went to Texas Tech, back on the mound tonight for Game 2. Got to even it up to best-of-3 series, but that she's so good that she didn't know how to do an intentional walk is also just funny to me.
Got to go to the umpire and say, just let her go to first, like they do in the bigs. Don't have to throw the ball. Let's go to the big finish if we could. Derek Carr told Front Office Sports he retired because he didn't want to have surgery, quote, and just sit there and take the Saints' money, unquote. Do you find that admirable?
I suppose so, but all the credit he's going to get is me saying, yes, I suppose, on an episode of PTI. So Rick Pitino, meanwhile, says he is, quote, absolutely not interested in coaching the Knicks. Disappointed by that?
No, I'm not. And what makes him think they're interested in him? I mean, I didn't see that going on at all. I didn't. No. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson is dealing with a shoulder injury, will not participate in minicamp next week. Is that a big deal?
Of course, he is polling terribly in Indianapolis, apparently. Of course, Daniel Jones fighting him for the starting job. But Jerry Reinsdorf has an agreement with billionaire Justin Ishbia that could see Ishbia eventually own the White Sox. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are, how many billionaires are there in that family? His brother owns the Phoenix Suns, and so far everything he's done hasn't worked out at all. Last one, Liberty at Mystics tonight. Will the Liberty move to 8-0?
Yes, my New York Liberty are going to defeat your Washington Mystics, Tony. That's right, 8-0. Beat that.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Pablo Torre, the host of Pablo Torre Finds Out, a podcast that Tony apparently listens to, but here SportsCenter.
Smart player like Halliburton, you really have to be sound first defensively. It doesn't mean you don't take risks. He is human, but you've got to be really calculated with those risks. So his thing is, our identity is we play hard And they want to make Halliburton make hard decisions and then live with the results
But you
of that.
mentioned that the Thunder don't want to play good hosts. Well, they've won 8 of their 9 games in the postseason on their home floor. They were fantastic against the Timberwolves. Stifling defense. What are the Pacers talking about? Trying to get a win and finding a crack here in this defense.
And they've seen once this building gets rolling and the crowd gets behind this team, just how difficult they can beat at home. And that's why the Pacers, they want to play fast. They want to keep the pace frenetic. They also got to take care of the ball. And they've been really good at that throughout the postseason, really all year. And that starts with Tyrese Halliburton. And he told me earlier in his playoffs that he really prides himself on taking care of the ball. He said there's nothing he'd rather do less on a basketball court than turn the ball over. Kevin, it may sound obvious, but it just helps them finish possessions, get shots. You need to score points against this Thunder team, and they can't give them the ball and get them out in transition, allow them to sort of stack up points and get their offense going and the confidence going. And for the Pacers, that is going to be the key for them, to keep that tempo, to keep holding on to the ball. They know what they're up against the Thunder, a 68-win team. They got the MVP. They know they're going to be massive underdogs, and nobody really gives them a chance. But it starts with taking care of the ball and really keeping the pressure on his own.
This environment, too, is going to be electric. Listen, you've been to many NBA cities, both you guys covering teams. This feels like a college campus, especially the minute they start the game and how loud they are for 4 straight quarters. And I think it's going to play a huge role tonight. It's how Indiana survives that, especially in the first half, Jay. Back to you.
All right, Kev, appreciate you. Now back to our breaking news from the NFL. ESPN confirming Aaron Rodgers is coming back for a 21st season, and he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Rodgers planning to fly to Pittsburgh this week and participate in the Steelers' mandatory minicamp next week. And while Aaron Rodgers is a multi-MVP winner, it hadn't been the same with him since he won an MVP back in 2021, since he last won it. His 45 QBR ranks bottom half among all QBs in that span, and his team has just a 400 win percent when he started the game. That is 19th in the NFL. Two-time Super Bowl champ Booger McFarland joins us now to break all this down. Booger, we saw Rodgers have the worst season of his career last year. How do you see this season playing out with a new team and a new coach?
Well, first of all, I'm going to speak for the rest of America. Thank God this saga is over. I think America is tired of this Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers dragging out, us talking about it every day. So now let's talk about it in reality. He's a 41-year-old quarterback that if you protect him, his arm is still one of the best arms in the National Football League. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's something you haven't had a